I think one of the biggest blessings I find, or where I value success really, is out 150, 160 people that we have working at HCFX across Milan, Madrid, UK and our various subsidiaries. The amount of mouths that are being fed out of this business, the amount of people that bought their first homes, seen people get married, having kids, like people that really need this business to succeed, the why for this business to succeed is at its greatest level. And I think for me, when I see people come in and realistically build their dreams and you watch them flourish, I think that is the definition of our success.
Hi everybody and welcome to FEBE Founder Stories, and it's awesome to have Tony Ketterman in the studio. Tony, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, the first thing I've got to start off by saying is huge congratulations on being in the Growth 100. Any growth, any business that can grow in these difficult, trading, in this difficult trading environment is just incredible. But to achieve the kind of growth that you guys are doing it's out of this world. I think we reported something like 38 million in the latest Growth 100.
Just shy of that, yeah.
Probably going to smash that again for next year.
Touch wood.
So listen, again, I said at the beginning, but well done. You
you.
could say living the dream, but we all know the actual reality of being a founder is completely different. It's anything but sometimes, isn't it? So listen, so Hamilton Court Foreign Exchange is the business. Tell us about it. And when you started the business, I always love to kind of go back to that moment when you decided, right, this is what I'm gonna start.
Yeah, I'm happy to start from the beginning. So first of all, thanks for having me.
Pleasure.
And let me tell my story. So we started the business at 2011, and I'd probably say I was more of an accidental entrepreneur. We've kind of got here without necessarily like pure design. So the original plan was, I worked in the industry before, and I just hated it. I hated the environments that I was working in.
So you've done your 10,000 hours, so to speak, then?
Yeah, I guess so. And I just felt that I felt I could do it better. I felt I could offer a platform for talented individuals to come in and really make a difference to the target market that we do, so our clients. And I've got a real thing about making money out of people's losses. Doesn't sit well with me. So in order for me to feel good and create a really good environment, I set out an aim to ensure that we only make money where we can help people save money.
Wow.
And I think that for me is the real essence of where this all started from.
Does that go against the grain of the industry?
Massively.
Right.
In my opinion, from my own experience, I just felt, growing up as a sales guy, you're going out pitching new business to win new clients. And I felt that what we were promising on the phone, and you're going out meeting these people, and the service that you're offering, over time, I just felt it became diluted, because what became more apparent was company targets, driving revenue, driving profitability. And if profit and revenue is at the forefront of your goal, something's going to have to suffer, which I felt that what we were promising over time became non-existent. And I just felt that where you had so much pressure or KPIs on your sales and dealing teams to generate revenue and effectively churn clients, I felt that it just wasn't an environment that I felt that would be productive for the long run. So if you're always targeted on winning new business, you're going to get a churn rate, right? And I just felt it was perverse. You should make more money the longer your client stays with you. And as a broker, right, that was kind of, I just felt that if I had a client and the relationship was good over a period of time, we should do better out of that, rather than you make loads of money up front, and if it goes off, you have to keep replacing it. And I think that was the real basis of what I wanted to build, it's almost like a family environment, right? Where it's all about doing good, doing right by people, and then success will follow.
Because in your experience in other organisations, sometimes there's always that focus on the new stuff.
Correct.
And that didn't sit well with you?
It didn't sit well, because it almost like, over time, you're probably going to lose some of those new customers. So the focus was always on winning new business the entire time, which was fine. But it just almost felt that what we were promising wasn't being delivered. And I just felt that I was young enough to basically start from scratch. And my worst case scenario is if it failed, I'd always go and get a job. So I didn't really have anything to lose. Where I think other people that once they get kind of trapped into earning a certain level of income, got family, got kids, the chance of them taking that risk and starting from scratch is not impossible because they can't afford it. They've got a lifestyle they've got to maintain. Whereas I was 20, 23 years old.
There's definitely benefits from starting this game earlier on, isn't there? As a 23-year-old, I guess there is that element of fearlessness. Do you feel that element of fearlessness changes as you've got older?
It's interesting you use the word fearless or fearlessness. And I think fear actually is a good driver for me.
Okay.
But it's bravery that I would say
over fearlessness.
Over fear. So it's almost like, if you've got someone coming towards you trying to attack you, you're going to be scared, right? But what do you do about it? How brave are you to defend yourself?
Yeah, you run all your front up.
So I think for me it was about, yes, like the fear of like failing, the fear of not doing well, or there was definitely fear there. But it was, how could I attack that? And how could I use that to create fire in my belly that I was going to go on and succeed?
So you started the business at 23?
I'm doing my math now. So by the time the planning of it was about 24.
So the planning started before the so-called incorporation, right? So tell me about what it was then like day one. How many people have you got now?
We're up to about 160.
Jeez. So you started with just you?
Just me. So just me sort of building it all up in the background. And then we started day one, or it was May the 1st, or the first working day of May. And I think we had an office of 5 of us in a sort of goldfish bowl. And that was it. Excel spreadsheets, didn't have a clue what we were doing, how we were recording data, got the cheapest CRM system that we could find. And we started off with a tiny amount of money, but we just managed to build it.
So as in you started with investment?
Seed capital, yeah.
Okay, seed capital. So was it hyper growth right from day one? Did it?
We were profitable
was it a slow burner?
We were profitable from day one. I think in our first 10 months, so we basically matched our financial year to match the tax year. So we only had like a 10-month year. I think we did turn over £1 million in our first full financial year.
Wow.
Was
that expected?
It's weird. I didn't really have such expectations.
Okay.
I think anyone I'm not the best at details, right? So I'm just much more of a free thinker, intuitive.
Get stuck in.
Probably a bit impulsive.
Yeah.
And I don't really like to plan because I feel like if you make a plan, you become wedded to a plan. And the more wedded you are, if you sort of go off course, you sort of then feel like you got to get back to the plan. It's almost like you become so entrenched in what a plan is. And I just felt like I was always best, or I still feel I am always best, is when almost adversity comes or something changes, right? You weren't expecting that. Okay, well, how do we navigate? How quickly can I make a decision that's going to sort of help us? So I think we just went with the flow. Is how we were kind of finding our feet, competing against bigger players, trying to recruit staff. You're a startup. How do you get people on board? And I think we just had to be so nimble. And I've always felt that, especially in the beginning, the more nimble you are, the better chance that you had of succeeding.
You talk about, there's 5 of you in the office, and you're now fast forward to today, and you're well over 100.
Yeah.
Are there elements where you sometimes look back on those early days and you think, that was a lot of fun? Or is it just as much fun now? What are the kind of difference?
Okay. So I'd say it's another interesting ones. And we have these chats all the time because we really exploded our headcount during COVID. So even before then, I think we're up to about 30. Where it was a real sort of tight unit. Everyone, everyone's story, names of their kids, the schools they go to. You spend a lot of time with these people.
Yeah.
And it was really personal. I'd say that the fun, obviously, in the beginning was everyone's rolling up their sleeves, doing everything, whatever it may well be. Your computer's broken, someone's getting under the desk with a screwdriver trying to fix it. Whereas now you've got people in those departments doing all those things. So it has become more corporate. But I think what makes us, special really, is our culture. Is that it is I sit on the floor. There's no private offices. Everyone's approachable. Of course there is a hierarchy in terms of position and seniority and managers, etc. But fundamentally, we are all one team.
So if you were to walk through on that floor, you wouldn't see that hierarchy. That's your point, right?
You wouldn't have a clue who anyone was.
And that's been really important to you because did you see that in other organisations then, that hierarchy, people in closed line offices?
Yeah, I did. And I just felt it was way too corporate. And if of course there are times I have to take private calls, or I have to do stuff that's I need to get off the floor. And there is use of private offices, but fundamentally it's like, what was I good at? I was good at being with people, right? Either good at selling, good at dealing, managing clients, helping clients manage their risk. So I feel like if you take me out of that, you almost play me out of position. So whilst I can run the business, I've also employed some phenomenal people who help me do that, do it better than I can probably in certain areas, well definitely, but being one of the team. And I think that's truly fundamental as to why I think we maintain staff and retain clients. I think that culture all the way comes straight from the top dare I say it, all the way through to everyone else.
Yeah. Tony, entrepreneurs come from so many different backgrounds, have so many different stories before they even become an entrepreneur. What's your story?
So I grew up with one of three. So one of three, I was the youngest. My sister's 5 years older than me, brother's 6 years older. Single parent household. Fortunately, don't know my dad. Named after him, so I'm Tony Jr.
Yeah.
So it had its moments, had its challenges. I was super happy. I mean, give me a pair of football boots, football pitch downstairs, and off we went. And we were super, super happy. I was very fortunate. I went to a decent secondary school, and I saw what working class looked like. So growing up in a council estate, you're led to believe there's like glass ceilings. You know, you sort of go to your youth clubs and you talk to these different people. And it's like, right, we'll go through school, pass your exams, and we'll get you into a trade. And it's kind of like that's your route. And I was very fortunate. I went to a decent school that had working class families, and I saw these houses that were like, semi-detached houses that had gardens. I was like, wow, this is what I want. I want this. And I was so fascinated by it because I always believed that growing up where I grew up, that it was impossible to do anything like that. But what I did know is that the way I could manage myself on the street and the way that I could handle myself and understand like the street hustle and how to like barter for stuff and do things, and you try and get discounts here and there. If I applied that with what I would learn from my friends' parents and kind of see that world, I can marry the two up together. And if I look at them and I look at my friends' parents, I'd be like, well, they aren't that intelligent. Like, what are they doing that makes them drive a nice car and not have to get the bus to football? And I thought I can do it. And it just gave me this like massive driver of, wanting to be successful. And I think going back to business, and I think where I sort of excel or come into my own is when you grow up poor or with not much, you're taught to believe that having money or wealth makes you happy. And if I think back to some of my happiest times, I didn't know any different. All I cared about was being with my mates, my brother, my sister, playing computer games or whatever. I was so bloody happy. No stress. You didn't know any different, right? You were in these little flat and you were just so bloody happy. And I think for me, it's like, well, I know where I started from, so it couldn't have got a huge amount worse. So I feel like I'd never have anything to lose, because my worst case scenario with me and my kids would always be bloody happy. As long as we have each other, we're healthy. Like, what is there to lose? So there is nothing that you can do or say to me that is going to be such a big risk that you just can't take it.
Blimey, that is powerful. Tony, that is incredible. Gives us a complete taste of how you think, which is people can't take it away from me, because as long as I've got what's important to me, I've got everything I ever need.
Correct.
How do you, I guess two questions, Tony, in one. How do you create a culture, and then how do you maintain the culture? So how do you create the culture at the beginning when it's that entrepreneurial spirit and it's all about that journey, versus then as you get bigger and dare I say it, maybe a little bit more, corporate, yeah.
Yeah, I think you can't help that. I think as, time evolves and the company gets bigger, people aren't playing multiple positions because you have someone doing those roles, right? And there are specific people doing specific things, and you don't need everyone to be a jack of all trades anymore. I think that was one of the toughest parts, is you obviously have people that do multiple things, and it's almost like you then take a job off them when you hire a specialist to go and do that specific role. I think if you go into creating a culture, it becomes quite manufactured. And I'm big on letting things be, and what will be, which may sound a bit sort of opaque and away with the fairies, but I think if you're a good person and you have good values and what you're trying to achieve is all from a place of goodness, I think it's hard to not have a good culture. If it becomes about selfishness, about how much can we make, how much money's in it for me, and it all becomes, if money is the driver, I think you create a quite daunting breeding ground, I think, for toxic culture, because it then becomes all about me. Whereas if it's about success and the greater good and a team, I think you create a culture where people often help each other. I used to play football at a decent level, and I think one of the things I learned about team sports is that you often get played in positions you don't want to play.
Yeah.
And all that mattered at the end of it was you won. Didn't matter how you won, but you just had to win. Of course, you wanted to play a nice style of football or whatever it was, but fundamentally it was about how, as a team, as a collective, can we make sure at the end of the season we've won the league. And I kind of use that sort of metaphor in my mind often, that the start of the financial year is the start of the season. Where do we end up at the end? And it's about how do we make sure that everyone on that, you may not even be playing. You've got squad players that aren't playing or they're not contributing. but how do you make them feel part of it?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of, we do a lot of stuff where it's just, I think one of the biggest things that I think that we've been really good at is getting people back into the office after COVID.
Yeah.
And I think that massively helps the culture. I know a lot of people will be watching this thinking it's unfair, people should be able to work from home. And we do offer flexibility, for sure. But I do think that spending time with people in a people's business massively helps. It's those...
Because you're in a people business, aren't you? No doubt.
For sure. It's all those inconsequential benefits. I go make a cup of coffee and I have a chat with someone who I otherwise would never normally speak to.
Yeah.
You chat to someone in IT and you talk to them about their weekend and you get to know them and it becomes so personal. And I think that's what we are, is a personal service, a personal service-led business.
Yeah.
And it's all about knowing your clients, your staff, your team, and it just becomes one.
You're going back to the early point you said then, it completely mirrors something that someone else recently said in a founder story, which was, you can make creating culture quite a complex thing.
Yeah.
But it isn't. It starts with the people at the top. And if you come at it with good intentions, really keen to create something based on doing the right thing, and it kind of it goes from there. And it's just made me think of that, because the way in which you said it, just like you do, it actually seems quite simple when you break it down.
I actually think a lot of this stuff is simple. I think a lot of the stuff that people spend so much time thinking about, actually, if you were just natural, you'd be fine.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't love being in front of a camera, but having a general chat with you about something that I'm passionate about is easy.
Yeah.
But if I start, on the cab here, when I was thinking about what we're going to discuss, I sort of went into overdrive a bit, thinking, oh God, they're going to ask me all these questions. How am I going to answer? Should I know my figures? And actually I thought, well, forget that. Let's just have a normal chat. And if you have a normal chat and it becomes natural, it's just a natural feeling.
Yeah. What's the biggest challenge been over the past few years? Really thinking about that. Well, you tell me what it is, but I'm thinking especially with that level of growth. Have there been any kind of challenge that you thought, oh, blimey?
Managing more people and integrating people at the same time. Integrating people externally when it was during COVID was tough.
I bet.
Getting people to buy into the culture, sharing the vision.
Which you've got to be great at as a founder and CEO, right?
I think I never describe anyone as an employee. It's my team. We're all team, right?
I love the fact you say that. I hate the word employee.
Oh, I hate it's the worst. Because they're not. We're a team, right? We're all a team. I'm an employee of the business, in essence, right? So the way I look at it is that I also don't decide what our vision is and then I instill it on everyone. It's what are we trying to achieve, and it's like we have this all the time where we, beginning of the year, or we go through a financial year, we work out what is it we've achieved. Let's really dissect what we've done. And if I go back to another football analogy, right? If I think about playing football as a kid, if you ever lost a game, the manager would give you an absolute bollocking, right? And tell, why have you lost this, right? If we won in style, you're free to go. But they'd never dissect why you won. You'd always spend time on worrying about why you lost. And I always think about what is it that we're good at is winning business, right? Winning business, maintaining it, getting really good results for clients. So let's spend ages working out how we got that. What was so successful about it? How can we replicate it? Yeah. Rather than worry about, if we've lost, forget it. You can't, don't worry about it. We'll pick up that later, but let's really focus on the good stuff. And I think what I think we're also really good at as a team is we sit down and we work out what we're all trying to achieve. So it's everyone's vision. We've all bought into it. Right, we've created this. We've now set our standard, right? We're going from here to here, and everyone's bought in because you all now have a part to play. You've signed up for this. Like when we set our budget, it's not me saying this is our budget or the shareholders. It's management, senior people saying, right, this is what we can achieve, and this is now our target. So anyone that lets us down, well, you can't, because we've all signed up to this. This is the contract. It's a binding contract to ourselves, and it becomes a sense of pride. And I think that then comes down to, so the way it works. If I just about budget process quickly, is we all have an idea. I throw a number out. We all think we can try and achieve. Then everyone's kind of goes through and they all sit down, sort of next layer of management, and kind of sit down, work out between them how can they do it, what do they need. Then they talk to their teams, individually. They talk to the individuals, and then it becomes a whole thing where everyone in every department is trying to achieve the same thing because everyone has a part to play to get to that, to win in the league. At the
so it's never your Tony. Tony, it's never your number. It's the whole team's number.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who am I to say what's achievable? And actually, sometimes.
Do you feel that do you get people come say, Tony, look, I think that stretch might be too much of a stretch, or how do those conversations go?
Well, never really, because it's their number.
Okay.
You've told me what you can achieve.
Okay.
If you ask, very few people that are ambitious, if you say to me, what can you achieve? They're going to say nothing. They're always going to say a number that's ambitious and it's bullish. Very few people give you a very bearish number. Of course, sometimes people under-promise and over-deliver, and I get all that. But we have a realistic conversation, and then we go back to what resources do you need? How can we support you through that? Are you sure that's enough? Are you sure you can achieve that? And if you think you can, fantastic. We'll go on it together. And this is now our journey, right? So we are starting from scratch, April 1st to March 31st. How are we going to do that? Let's break this down to month, quarters, every whatever it may well be, and we kind of go on that journey together. But equally, while there is also ultimately a number at the end of it that we're trying to achieve, it's what forms part of that number. How do we get there? And I think going back to my earlier point about being flexible is we have to be flexible, because ultimately we want to do that, but, from start to finish. But there may well be peaks and troughs, and fundamentally our business is never going to be a straight line of growth from the beginning of the year to the end. Hopefully, yes, but there'll be some really bumper months, but it's ultimately how you look at it over a period of time.
Yeah.
I hate using the word or describing anyone as an employee, simply because we're all employees, and who am I to describe anyone as? It's almost like a hierarchical thing where an employee is deemed someone that's lower than their boss, where actually it's, as cheesy as it sounds, it's one team, one dream. We're all in it together.
So Tony, when anyone starts a business, you've mentioned you took on seed investment.
Yeah.
Have you had to take on, increasing levels of investment as you've gone on? Because obviously raising money is a massive part of any business. Funding growth, is a challenge in itself. What's been your experience of that kind of stuff, and any kind of nuggets we can draw out of your experience on that?
Yeah. So we've had some supportive shareholders, which was fortunate. Fortunately, we made money from the beginning, so we were always in profit. We've pretty much reinvested, I'd say 99% of every penny we've ever made into the business. We've taken on debt. I think there was always this, with any situation where you've got sort of your seed investors or non-exec directors or shareholders that ultimately back you and want to be part of the journey. And there's always going to be that tension, which is healthy, because they want a return on their money, in essence, but they also want to be part of the journey. You're trying to grow the business at speed or at a pace that's suitable to you, and also you want to incentivize everyone around you to be part of it. We decided to take on debt rather than sell equity over time, and we've been super fortunate with a debt fund who have provided us phenomenal support and debt, and
really,
and we're very fortunate that we've managed to succeed off the back of it.
And that's helped you to accelerate the growth?
Massively.
Really?
Yeah.
And that kind of, the debt has never felt to you a bit like
if anything, we always thought it was the cheapest option, because you're not giving away the business, right?
Okay.
Because you're taking on cash or equity or debt, whatever you want to call it, to grow the business. So you always know, or as any entrepreneur believes, their business will be worth more tomorrow than it is today. So why would you want to sell today to get more cash, knowing you're going to get a higher price for it tomorrow? So the debt was the cheapest way of basically not having to get rid of any equity, and getting cash in to support the growth.
It strikes me that there is an incredible level of confidence in you, but at no point has it ever spilled into me thinking this guy's arrogant. And never saying that's happened on a fan of stories. I'm saying sometimes you meet people who have success and you think, oh, blimey, there's a level of arrogance creeping in there. But there's clearly none of that. Why is that? What is grounding you? What is stopping you from...
I couldn't do this on my own. I'm nothing without everyone around me. The way I look at it, I was very fortunate. I made a brave decision to start a business. It's gone well for me. But I think one of the other things that I've learned best about me is that I'm a great talent spotter, right? And it's about hiring people and bringing people on your journey that then becomes our journey, and empowering people to do what they're good at. And I think I'm never embarrassed to say that I'm no good at something. There are certain parts of this business that operationally I wouldn't have a clue how to do certain things. But you hire people who are amazing. I always say I want to be the dumbest person on the board. Or I want to be the thickest person in the room. Because if I am, I'm surrounded by some incredible people.
It's done your job.
Yeah, and I think it's about... I also want an easy life. I think people get married to their jobs and they become so obsessed with it. But actually, I just think it's about having an easy life, as easy a life as possible, which is having phenomenal people around you who you can trust. You know that if you go on holiday, the house ain't going to fall down. And I think that's one of the biggest blessings I think we've got here at Hamilton Court, is that there are just incredible people all around the business doing such important roles.
And taking us to kind of like the other side of that then, with success that the business is having, which you'll personally be able to enjoy.
Yeah.
Is it everything If I was to say to you, you know, you're going to start a business, it's going to be really successful, you're going to be really successful, you know, how did you picture that versus reality of what that's like?
So when you're a kid, when you start growing up poor, you're taught to believe that being wealthy or having money makes you happy, right? So that was, as a kid, it was like, I want to be rich because that's gonna make me happy. And as you kind of go through it, I think you then get a very different version or reality of or definition of what wealth means. Fortunately, I'm a father. I've got 5 beautiful, healthy daughters.
5?
Yeah, 5 daughters.
Wow. Tony, you've been busy.
Yeah. So I often say I'm the wealthiest man in the world, or at least I'm going to have to be. So I think one of the biggest blessings I find, or where I value success really, is out the 150, 160 people that we have working at HCFX across Milan, Madrid, UK and our various subsidiaries. The amount of mouths that are being fed out of this business, the amount of people that bought their first homes, seen people get married, having kids, like people that really need this business to succeed, the why for this business to succeed is at its greatest level. And I think for me, when I see people come in and realistically build their dreams and you watch them flourish, I think that is the definition of our success.
So for you, it's never about the money.
I think money will just take care of itself.
Okay.
If you are successful, I don't care what business or industry you're in, if you are brilliant at your job, you'll make money.
Having 5 kids though, that's some responsibility. Has that caused some sleepless nights at times when you've had some of the big issues that have been popping up?
No, I'm probably diagnosed myself with ADHD. I mean, my attention span is I can probably read something for about 10 seconds and I'm constantly active. I'm 100 miles an hour thinking of a million things at once. Having kids, I think, is one of the best blessings. For me, it's the biggest blessing, right? I love being a dad more than anything. And I think one of the other things that we do is I'm so big on dads being around for their kids, especially. Typically, what we see is like, we always make sure the dads going to pick up their kids from nursery, take them to school. Absolutely never miss a sports day, don't miss a play, don't miss an assembly, don't miss any Father's Days, or parents' evenings. You make sure you are a present father.
Yeah. And
if you feel good about that, we'll reap the rewards in abundance. Yeah. But what you don't want is people sitting there. I've seen it in previous companies where parents they're arguing with their other halves or the other parents, say, I can't come to this, can't come to that, and they just resent being in the office. And this is about, if you want to work from home that day because you've got something on, you go and do it. But I think there's nothing better than being, a parent. And I think it's amazing that people can come in and have the flexibility to be a parent whilst being successful.
Yeah.
Awesome. And one shouldn't be a cost of the other.
Tony, you mentioned earlier about this dislike of the word employee. And I love that because I feel the same. I do not like the word employee. I think, a team is a much greater way to describe people that are all on the journey together and unified by that desire to do something great, right? Do you give the people in your company the opportunity to have ownership of the business?
Yeah, we do. So everyone, we sort of offer growth shares or growth equity each year, and that goes right the way across the business. So it doesn't matter which part of the business you're in, whether it's compliance, settlements, operations, sales, dealing. So if you're bringing in the revenue or you're sort of helping support the revenue come in, you can all qualify. And that we look out for outstanding performers, people that go above and beyond, people who bleed Hamilton Court.
Really?
This is their lifeblood. And what a fun, amazing story it will be that, one day when there is an exit event in however long that may well be, that everyone can share into that who has really put in an effort over the period of time. And this all really came back to something that I did years ago. I did a workshop. I remember the guy's name was Mark Fritz. And his whole thing was why you never wash a rental car.
Why you never?
Wash a rental car.
Ah, okay, I know where you're going to go with this.
Because it's not theirs. You don't own it. So that's one of the very few...
What a great analogy.
Yeah, very few things have always stuck with me. And that was one of the only things that have ever stuck. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have physical equity for you to own something. And this all goes back to owning ideas, right? So if we set budget, it becomes everyone's idea. So you now own it. You have equity in that idea. So we all together form a team and we're going to go out and achieve it. But everyone should own a piece of something. Because if you feel like you don't own it, then you become an employee.
Yeah.
And you're just doing a job. And then when it's sort of you in at 9, out at 5:30, off you go.
Yeah. You've spoken a lot about you want to live your life to be happy, right?
Yeah.
It means a lot to you. And if I take your bucket list right now, we've all got bucket lists. We've got things we want to do. What in the next 12 months do you want to make sure you tick off?
I think to be more present.
Okay.
I speak about, often is that my mind works a million miles an hour. So when I do hit the sack, I'm gone, But I think it's about being more present and trying to really enjoy, I could be sitting here having this conversation with you, but I'm really thinking about what I'm doing in the next 2 hours before we, whatever it may well be. I'm always thinking. And I think sometimes that zaps the fun out of stuff for me. And how do I enjoy being present more? And it's about trying to compartmentalize. But I also told myself about, does that take away my secret sauce? But I can think of other
Probably
stuff.
would.
So I don't have any specific thing on my bucket list. It's about being more present. And if I'm more present, I probably enjoy everything else I do much more.
Yeah. Final question, Tony. You've got great experience in terms of what you've achieved, what you've done, what you've built up. Fledgling businesses always want, a great piece of advice. What would you give to anyone watching this right now in terms of that bit of advice you give to them?
Everything will be okay. Whatever it may well be, everything always works out the way it should do. And I think that people can get so stressed, so bogged down into the minutiae of detail or a situation that it clouds their ability or clouds their mind to work out a solution. And I think, I always look at it like this. If you think about something, you shut your eye and you think about something that's going on, where do you see it? If you see all this cloud, right, this business is about to go bust, or something, but the contract hasn't paid me, or whatever it may well be, the anger typically sits right in front of your eyes, right?
Yeah.
And when you think about your happy moments, it's always in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So flip it around. So when you're pissed off and you're stressed and you're angry, you want to, go mad.
Here's your shit.
Put that there, and then think about your happy place.
Because by doing that, you'll attack it in a much healthier way. You sit clearer. Okay.
If you know those toys, the ice globes.
Yes.
You shake them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine that's your mind.
Yeah.
Your mind's going, "Ugh," and eventually everything just settles.
Yeah.
You see straight through it.
Yeah, you do.
And I think it's about being able to realize and see that something is taking over you, and having the ability. And I struggle with this massively because I'm so impulsive and emotional that you can't make decisions in that state of mind. You can't navigate through that, the snow falling down, right? You have to wait till it drops. Then all of a sudden the dust settles, the anger, the fear, the emotion is taken out of it, and then you can see things clear, then make a decision. So it's having the ability to recognize what's happening to you, and pulling yourself out, or being fortunate enough to have a person around you or members around you that can say, Tony, you're about to fuck up here. Like, get out of the office, go for a walk, and just clear your head.
Take a chill pill, come back and have another crack in a different mindset.
Correct.
Love it. Tony, I've loved chatting with you. Based on what you've said, I do not doubt for any minute that there is a hell of a lot more to come, but huge congratulations on everything you've done, and I cannot wait to see where this business goes in the future. So thanks a lot, Tony.
Cheers.